first order, I'm providing a limited waiver on state procurement regulations so that we can quickly increase the supply of temporary housing units on people's properties to keep them safely through the winter while they begin the process of rebuilding or repairing. The second order addresses the need to urgently repair private roads and bridges. We estimate that Hurricane Helene damaged more than 8,000 of these. Without these bridges or roads, people cannot access their properties. First responders, school buses, delivery trucks, private cars cannot access affected properties. It should go without saying that when someone experiences an emergency, ambulances, fire trucks, police vehicles must be able to get to people's homes. That's why I'm directing the Director of Division of Emergency Management, Will Ray, to quickly procure the services of bridge and road builders to get to work repairing these private bridges and roads now. In addition to these two executive orders regarding temporary housing units and private bridges and roads, I've signed 3 other executive orders this morning. The third order creates a dedicated group within my office focusing on coordinating our all-of-state government approach to respond to the emergency. The Governor's Recovery Office for Western North Carolina, we are calling it GROW-NC. Additionally, it establishes a division of community revitalization within the Department of Commerce to address long-term housing construction and community resilience. The fourth executive order formalizes our already established Advisory Committee on Western North Carolina Recovery, comprised of business, government, and civic leaders from across Western North Carolina to ensure that we do this critical work right. I'm grateful for the local leaders behind me. This is the team. And it includes, as I said, Senator Corbin and Mayor Manheimer as our chairs. The fifth order, I have directed the State Office of Human Resources to authorize state employees to use 16 additional hours of community service leave to meet the needs of the people of Western North Carolina. I encourage state employees to continue volunteering their time with local governments and nonprofit organizations to help their neighbors in need. Today's actions represent just our first steps on the path to recovery. They keep us moving forward. The road ahead of us is long, but we are in it for that long haul. My team and I will continue partnering with local leaders and law enforcement. I see the sheriff here today, businesses and nonprofits, and the General Assembly and the federal government to make sure we are keeping people safe and doing this work as well as we can. To keep moving forward, we will act with urgency, focus, transparency, and accountability. We want every dollar dedicated to recovery, whether federal, state, local, or charitable, to be spent as efficiently, impactfully, and quickly as possible. That's why I'm committed to doing everything in my power to accelerate relief and get it to where it needs to go as soon and as cost effectively as possible. That's what the people of Western North Carolina deserve. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to Mayor Manheimer.
Thank you, Governor. Again, my name is Esther Manheimer, and I have the honor of serving as the mayor of the great city of Asheville, North Carolina, where we all are right now. As Senator Corbin mentioned, we have been and are co-chairing the Rebuilding Western North Carolina Advisory Committee. Many of the members are here standing with us today. And I've been proud to share information on the ground about the ways people in Asheville are both coming together after the devastation of this storm and continuing to struggle, highlighting the importance of continuous focus on our recovery. In particular, as temperatures have dropped, people have desperately needed shelter, a place to keep warm and to keep safe. That's why the executive order to prioritize housing and build more temporary shelters is so critical. The winter is far from over, and we can get started today on getting people shelter. In addition, when people have an emergency, we need to be able to safely get them the help they need. I'm glad to see Governor Stein taking steps to get our private roads and bridges repaired and replaced. Safe passage is critical to the functioning of everyday life here in Western North Carolina, as well as making emergency response possible. On his first day in office, it is significant that this is where the governor is choosing to spend his time. I'm grateful to him and to our whole advisory committee for hitting the ground running, and I look forward to continuing to come up with creative ways we can help keep serving the people of Western North Carolina. And I'll now turn it back over to the governor for any questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to have any questions if there are.
Governor, Nick Oxford, WPTV.
Mr. Nick, thank you. Appreciate it.
As you stand here today, less than a month ago, Encore ordered contractors to stop rebuilding homes for people impacted by Hurricanes Matthew and Hurricanes Florence because they were out of money. So as you're here in Western North Carolina today, what are you doing to make sure Encore has the funding to continue rebuilding in Eastern North Carolina? And what are you going to do to ensure that Western North Carolina gets rebuilt faster than the hundreds of people still out of their homes in Eastern North Carolina?
Yeah, today we are talking about these temporary housing units here in Western North Carolina, which are 100% funded by the federal government through FEMA. So what we want to do in this first 6 months, when FEMA is giving 100% reimbursement, to get as many people into these temporary housing units as we possibly can so that they can be on their own properties, safe, overseeing the reconstruction and rebuilding of their properties. Encore will remain in operation, focused on the critical work of making sure that the people in Eastern North Carolina who suffered from storms years ago get their homes finished. We will be certainly working with the legislature to make sure that the funding that is necessary to complete that job gets done, because those folks need finality as well.
But to clarify, is Encore not going to take over a role in rebuilding Western North Carolina after?
No, Encore has an important job to do, which is to finish its work in Eastern North Carolina. We are not going to distract them from that job. They have mission one. We have this other group that we're creating in the Department of Commerce, the Division of Community Revitalization, that is going to be focused on the long-term rebuilding here in Western North Carolina.
Governor, is there a ballpark of how many people will be impacted or need this temporary housing in Western North Carolina?
We know that there are over 10,000 people who have been displaced. Some of those people are in satisfactory housing, and maybe they're at a family member down the street and they don't need something. Other people are in a temporary apartment or hotel, and for them that's the right solution. But we know there are many people who want to be back on their property. They just don't have a shelter to do that safely. So we are going to be out there talking to as many of these folks as we can and say, this is your option. Do you want to take it? It's their choice.
Governor, how are these waivers going to speed up that process? And is it specifically for the FEMA temporary housing units?
Because through traditional procurement policies by the Department of Administration, we would have to let these contracts that may take 30 to 60 days to be finalized before we could start doing the first one. So we've directed the Department of Administration in partnership with the Division of Emergency Management at the Department of Public Safety to cost effectively find vendors and get these trailers deployed now, while we are on a dual track going through the traditional procurement process, so that 30 to 60 days when those contracts are let, we can use those contracts instead.
Has there been any talk at the state level about allowing these FEMA units in the special flood hazard area?
Yes, there have been issues as it relates to, there are two entities which are going to be putting these temporary trailers on people's property. There's FEMA, which has been ongoing, and they have federal regulations and requirements that we as a state do not. So what we are now standing up is a dual track state process where we will have more flexibility to get these trailers on people's properties much more quickly.
But the state process, you're not letting FEMA trailers with that process?
So it's a state process, but paid for by FEMA.
Okay.
So we will be ultimately reimbursed. As I said earlier, FEMA generously, President Biden granted Governor Cooper's request to have 100% reimbursement of these initial expenses for the first 6 months. I mean, as you know, we're still in those first 6 months. So what we want to do is get as much of this work done within 6 months as we possibly can, because FEMA has guaranteed to reimburse us at 100%.
Governor, I have another question. There are no others. I want to talk about your conversation with Kevin Crutchfield when he was representative in the State House. Then Representative Crutchfield has confirmed you two spoke about his vote to uphold or override the veto by Governor Cooper of a bill while he was applying for a job in your administration. Your office didn't respond to my request for comments about that conversation. Was it appropriate for you to speak with him while he was seeking a job in your administration?
I spoke to many members from the General Assembly, probably some of them here behind me, urging them to uphold the governor's veto, because I think that bill was a bad bill. Concurrently, he did seek employment in the administration, but they were unrelated phenomena.
But the belief
Can
on
we take a
Joe.
question from someone else, just so we can?
If I can get a follow-up, the
Yeah,
belief
but
on
we're
Joe
just trying to make
Street.
sure we get everyone's
Hi.
questions, so can we?
There were no other questions, that's why I was asking this one. So the belief on Joe Street is that Representative Crutchfield was seeking a job in exchange for voting to
Well,
uphold the
that,
governor's.
no, that is
governor's veto.
that is absolutely untrue. That, I can't control when the legislature took its bill. Under the Constitution, the governor had to veto it. They had to consider the override or sustaining of that veto. Meanwhile, I got elected governor and was seeking an administration. So totally unrelated phenomenon. Yes, sir.
If they were unrelated,
That-
then why didn't your staff respond to my inquiry weeks ago, Governor?
I cannot even,
Why didn't they respond to
I
my inquiry
cannot,
weeks ago?
I cannot tell
We
you.
have another question. Yep.
Governor, we have another reporter asking a question. He just texted me. What is your response to an appeals court ruling that charges should be dropped against a teen who made a social media comment about shooting up a school, because he also made a comment that it was a joke? Have you heard about that?
I haven't. Obviously, I'll go back and read the case, and I would actually say, you can go back to the Attorney General's office and we'll give you a comment, but I'll have to talk to Jeff Jackson about that. Yes, sir.
Corey Valancourt, Smoky Mountain News.
Yes.
In your previous role as Attorney General and now your new role as Governor, can you tell us how much time and effort the state has spent investigating claims of donation fraud or ill-gotten gains related to the outpouring of donations that Western North Carolina has seen?
If anybody has complaints or concerns about any potential fraud, whether it relates to charitable fraud or price gouging, file a complaint with the Office of Attorney General. Jeff Jackson will take those complaints with utmost seriousness and act to protect the public.
And had you seen anything like that before you took office?
Now, we had not gotten a substantial number of complaints as regarded to donation fraud. All right. Oh, yes, one less.
Are you concerned federal and state lawmakers won't come through with the state's funding requests?
Yeah, I'm always concerned. I mean, until you have money in the bank account, you can't spend it. And I was very pleased that we had a strong first step by the federal government with its appropriation. The governor had submitted a request of $25 billion to help start the work here in Western North Carolina. The total losses are now estimated to be nearly $60 billion, $59 billion. Congress took a big step, but we think North Carolina's share is about $15 billion. So it's not even the $25 billion that was sought previously. There have been appropriation requests made to the General Assembly. They've done about 850, 900 million. What's the number? And we need to get more funds appropriated. So we're going to be working with both entities, both appropriators, federal and state, because we know the needs are immense. They're vast. If we've gotten nearly $60 billion in damages, and we've only gotten $15 billion from the federal government, about $1 billion from the state, private insurance will cover some of that, but not that much. So we have a lot of work to do. We will definitely be going back to Congress in March to make up the difference of what they can do. It'll be more than the $10 billion, I'm certain, now that we have a clearer sense of what the scope of the damages are. And we will absolutely be working with the General Assembly to try to strategically fill in the gaps of what's needed to serve the people's needs, because getting people back in their homes as quickly as possible is our most important job. Supporting small businesses, so that they can make it through this tough winter season and have an opportunity to succeed and make up for the lost revenues that they experienced in the third quarter of last year is a top priority. There's a lot of work that has to be done, and we are committed to doing everything in our power in partnership with the legislature, in partnership with Congress, to help the people of West North Carolina get back on their feet.
I'm curious to know, outside of the 5 executive orders that issued today, before you got into this role and as you observed what was going on, is there anything personally that you felt like should be added or changed with the recovery process?
Yeah, I'm really, just this issue on small business support. There were many, many small businesses that applied for funding through the SBA, the Federal State Small Business Administration. They didn't have any money. They could accept the application, but they had no money to provide. With the congressional resolution that passed, continuing resolution that passed by Congress in December, the SBA has been refunded. So if you have applied for a loan, you can now get that loan financed. The problem is there are many small businesses that already are carrying a lot of debt and can't take on any more debt. So we have to be very creative in partnership with our legislature and in partnership with our federal representatives to come up with a different kind of program, a grant program that can help businesses stay alive, continue to go operate, so that when people start coming back en masse in the spring and summer, they're still here. Because if they fail, if they don't make it, there's going to be a cascading pain that goes throughout Western North Carolina. We cannot have that happen, so we have more work to do in that regard.
Thank y'all.
Everybody, have a great day. Thank you.